You can stand in the middle of a dense crowd, surrounded by conversations and movement, and still feel entirely invisible. This invisibility is a byproduct of being hidden. You are physically present, but your actual experience remains entirely private. Many of us spend our days constructing an external facade. We swallow our doubts, hide our insecurities, and project a flawless image of adequacy to everyone we meet. It is a performance that requires constant, draining vigilance. We maintain this exhausting routine because of a learned association between absolute perfection and interpersonal safety. We convinced ourselves that if people saw our actual flaws, they would reject us. In the early 20th century, the psychologist Alfred Adler offered a different perspective on these isolating habits. He argued that human behaviors, even the ones that leave us feeling alone, are purposeful. They are goal-oriented attempts to find safety and significance in a complex world. Adlerians view this daily performance as a purposeful adaptation. It is a childhood survival strategy that has outlived its usefulness, leaving us trapped in a role we no longer need to play. Adler called this underlying operating system private logic. These are the hidden internal rules we create early in life. Over time, they sink into our subconscious and operate as absolute facts about how the world works. This worksheet from an Adlerian therapy group shows what those private rules actually look like on paper. They usually form as absolute statements, like, "I must not need anyone," or "If I fail, I am nothing," or "People always leave." Looking at the next column, therapists ask clients to identify the gift of these rules. If you were a vulnerable child in an unpredictable environment, deciding that you didn't need anyone kept you cautious. It reduced your pain and kept you prepared for disappointment. But carrying these childhood rules into adulthood has a high cost. When you demand perfection from yourself and keep everyone at a safe distance, you eliminate any possibility for deep, authentic intimacy. The paradox of private logic is that the rules you built to prevent rejection eventually create it. By demanding total safety, you ensure you stay unreachable. This trap leads to a neurotic retreat. Convinced that our hidden flaws make us unlovable, we hold ourselves back. We watch life happen from the sidelines, too afraid to actually participate. To break this cycle, Adler and his colleague Rudolf Dreikurs developed a psychological antidote. They called it the courage to be imperfect. As this therapy slide explains, the courage to be imperfect is not about the absence of fear. It means practicing honesty, making repairs, asking for help, and moving forward with dignity despite the risk of making a mistake. But you cannot practice this courage alone in a vacuum. Because your private logic was formed in response to other people, it has to be tested and rewritten in the presence of other people. True healing requires a social system. You have to take the risk of being seen, making group therapy the ultimate laboratory for dismantling your private logic. Imagine sitting in a circle of peers. The moment arrives when you finally drop your facade. You speak out loud of fear or a perceived character flaw that you have spent your entire life hiding, certain it was abhorrent. You brace for utter rejection. But instead, the group leans in. They listen. They offer consensual validation, telling you that they have felt the exact same way. The psychiatrist Irvin Yalom describes this moment as the disconfirmation of uniqueness. It is the sudden realization that your deepest, most isolating shame is actually a common human experience. Clients consistently report this as a massive psychological relief. They describe it as a welcome to the human race experience. It proves in real time that we are all in the same boat. When you discover that your darkest flaws are universally shared, the old rules lose their grip. The isolation built by your private logic finally begins to collapse. This brings us to Adler's ultimate measure of health, a concept called Gemeinschaftsgefühl, or social interest. It is a deep, innate sense of community feeling, cooperation, and usefulness to others. To build social interest, therapists use exercises like the one in this notebook. You identify an old rule of perfection and write down a courageous truth to take its place. You practice the belief that you can be imperfect and still belong. Adlerian thought changes the sequence of recovery. You don't have to fix your flaws or achieve total self-mastery before you earn your place in the community. As this diagram shows, belonging must act as the foundation. Sustainable behavioral change and personal growth can only rest securely on top of that feeling of safety and connection. When you find the courage to be imperfect, you free yourself from an exhausting lifelong performance. And by simply showing up as you are, you grant everyone around you the psychological permission to do the exact same thing.